Welcome back, guys. Welcome back to another episode of Spontaneous Remarks. This is the podcast where you never know what's going to be said or done. You just got to know, my gosh, I'm getting texts left and right. You just got to know what we're going to be talking about today. I'm pulling up the wheel of Nerdville as we speak. We're going to give it a spin and see what our topic is today. Here we go. All right, so today we're going to talk about one of the movies from I don't know what, I'm going to have to look this up and find out what year it came out, but it's one of the movies that, I didn't see when I was growing up, but it's a very iconic movie. This movie is all about time travel and stopping a one man named John Connor. That's right, we're talking about the Terminator. Woo! Dun, 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 dun. All right, so yes, welcome back to yet another edition of Spontaneous Remarks. Thank you so much for joining us. I hope you really enjoy the content. I hope you enjoy just spending a little bit of time with me and my goofiness. Sometimes I can come on pretty strong, but sometimes I hope that you just enjoy just sitting around and listening to my craziness. So thank you so much for joining again. Appreciate it. So like I said, today we're going to be talking about the movie franchise, the Terminator. And this is one movie that, it can kind of mess your head up if you're not careful, if you're trying to think about all the things that happen throughout the movie. So the Terminator franchise started off with the first film titled simply The Terminator back in 1984. Directed by James Cameron, which has been known for directing movies such as Titanic, the Terminator. He's done a lot of movies, and so this movie actually has a pretty cool premise, even though sometimes these past few movies have gotten pretty crazy with the lore of the Terminator. So it starts off, John Connor comes back in time as just a man trying to, you don't know what's happening. He just comes back in time. And then he's followed by another man, or what we think is another man. And then things get pretty crazy. So we find out that John Connor is trying to save Sarah Connor, and the Terminator has come back in time to kill Sarah Connor. Because if he could do that, he would stop John Connor from ever being born, which John Connor is the man that led the resistance against the machines. So the story revolves around this future where the artificial intelligence known as Skynet becomes self-aware and launches a nuclear apocalypse, which leads to a war between humans and the machines. Skynet sends the cyborg assassins known as the Terminators back in time to eliminate key figures who could threaten its existence. Very interesting subject. Time travel has always been very interesting to me, even though it can just mess with your brain. So like I said, the first film introduced us to the Terminator, played by Arnold Schwarzenegger, and he was a cyborg assassin sent back in time to kill Sarah Connor, whose unborn son, John Connor, is destined to lead the human resistance against the machines. And then a soldier from the future named Kyle Reese is also sent back in time. I had it backwards. The Terminator comes first, and then Kyle Reese comes second, which makes sense because they would send the Terminator back, and now they've got to send somebody once they find out what's happened so they could protect her. So it's pretty crazy, this movie, because I rented it back in, I don't remember. I was probably a young teenager, so it was back in the 90s when I rented it and first saw it. But I kind of knew about the story just from, seeing the propaganda and stuff on TV, commercials. I had toys. They made toys and everything. I had a friend that had the Terminator 2 Judgment Day arcade game for Sega Saturn, I believe, and I'd go over to his house and we would play that game some. So it's a pretty cool. It was a pretty cool game. I'm not sure if I'd liked. Well, Terminator 2 was cool as well, but Terminator 1 was more a kind of a sci-fi horror film, not really like a slasher film, but it was the relentless, kind of like a Jason Voorhees type character, which could not be stopped, could not be destroyed, could not be killed. The Terminator was made of this cyborg. I don't know what type of metal it was. I don't know if it ever even said it in the movies. I don't remember. But the metal was so strong that you just could not put this thing down. I remember a lot of the cool effects that was in the movies. I remember the part where the Terminator got shot in the face and he had to remove his eyeball, and that was a pretty gruesome little scene. And then you saw like the eye of the Terminator on the inside of his of Arnold's head, and it's pretty spooky. But I remember the Terminator could like impersonate someone he heard, so he could talk into the cop radio, and no one would know that it was not the cop. But he was after Sarah Connor. The only problem was in the movie that there was multiple Sarah Connors, so he ended up going on a killing spree of multiple Sarah Connors, and luckily he did not find the correct one. He didn't find her first. But Kyle Reese shows up to protect Sarah Connor. Of course, she thinks that someone's after her and thinks he's the bad guy, but he's trying to protect her. And then there's the man versus machine battle throughout the movie once they figure out what's going on, and he's got to protect her and save her. And the kind of twist, if you haven't seen it, sorry, spoiler alert, the twist in the movie was that Kyle Reese ends up falling in love with Sarah, or had fallen in love with her in the future, just from a picture that John gave him so he could find her and protect her. And then they end up, there's a love scene in the movie, and that's how John Connor was brought forth. So Kyle Reese, the guy sent back in time to protect Sarah Connor, ends up being John's dad, which was weird. That's time travel always messes with your mind. But the success of that first film, The Terminator, ended up leading to several sequels. Terminator 2 Judgment Day, which in this movie, the Terminator was the good guy, which was interesting because now we see first he was sent to terminate the ones that could possibly lead the resistance against the machines. Now he was sent back. I think he was captured, reprogrammed, and sent back to protect a young John Connor now. So John Connor was born, raised. He was a young teen. Sarah Connor was still preparing for the future. And now the Terminator shows up again. Sarah Connor has been put in like a mental institution because of all the things that she had told the people after this happened. And then John Connor's just kind of on his own, sort of, with foster parents. And so the Terminator shows up to protect him, but they didn't realize that there's another Terminator, more advanced, T-1000, which was made of liquid metal and could melt through things. He could change his appearance. He could change his arms into weapons if he had to. So this is another, like I said, it is directed by James Cameron. Sequel was actually considered to be one of the greatest action films of all time. And Robert Patrick is the one that played T-1000. Just an iconic role. He did an amazing job at this. And then there was Terminator 3, Rise of the Machines. This one, it was okay. It was not directed by James Cameron. It was directed by Jonathan Mostow, and the film takes place several years later after Judgment Day. And this time, of course, you had to have a new, stronger Terminator model, the TX, and this was played by Kristana Loken. And it follows John Connor's efforts to survive Judgment Day as Skynet launches a new plan to eliminate humanity. And then there was Terminator Salvation. This movie set in post-apocalyptic future. It was put out in 2009. I forgot to mention Terminator 3, 2003, and then Terminator 2 was 1991. Salvation, John Connor was played by Christian Bale, and this was when he's leading the resistance against Skynet. There was Terminator Genesis that was placed in 2015 or put out in 2015, directed by Alan Taylor. And this film serves as a reboot of the franchise, featuring a new timeline where events from the first film are altered. So it stars Emilia Clarke as Sarah Connor, and I don't know how, Jay Courtney, I think, is Kyle Reese. And then Arnold appears again as an older T-800 Terminator. They come back in time to try to stop it was a weird, this one is the one that, like, this, it makes no sense, some of these things that happen in this one. So they go back to the original Terminator timeline and try to put down the original Terminator. The older Terminator, it makes no sense. I mean, I get it. They can make it make sense with, it's the Terminator's got flesh and it can still, it's got blood and flesh and looks just like a human, but you don't know because it's programmed to be completely human, sort of. It's kind of goofy, I thought. And there was Terminator Dark Fate. This took place in 2019. This one was produced by James Cameron. And it actually served as a direct sequel to Judgment Day. It ignores the events of the other sequels and brings back Linda Hamilton as Sarah Connor and Arnold as the T-800, and plus introduces new characters facing a new threat from an advanced Terminator model. I think this one actually had, I think Jet Li, I want to say he was the Terminator. I'm not sure. I think he was an Asian character. But throughout the franchise, the themes of the fate, free will, and consequences of technology are explored. And it just makes it a staple in the science fiction genre. Interestingly enough, in today's time, 2024, we have AI everything now. So this is something. There was even a little skit on Saturday Night Live about AI where Beavis and Butthead were in the background, and it was a pretty funny skit, but it was all about AI, artificial intelligence. So are we seeing to where we could have a future similar to Terminator with AI coming self-aware at some point? I don't know. Anything's possible, I guess, in the world of craziness, this world we live in. But who knows? We might find that instead of them wanting to take us over, they might just want to be our best friend. You never know. So let's talk a little bit about one thing that many people, when it comes to time travel movies or anything dealing with time travel, you're going to have inconsistencies. And so a lot of these plot holes, like many stories, I mean, it does have these, there's several problems. So first is, the predestination paradox. So this franchise, it relies heavily on the concept of the predestination paradox, which means, the events in the past are influenced by actions taken in the future, which in turn leads to the same future. However, this creates a loop to where it's unclear where the original timeline began, similar to the Back to the Future. I mean, when you think about time travel, I mean, if it's 2024 right now, and I've developed a way to go back in time to see my teenage self in 1996, well, that means back in 1996, I will have appeared to myself, and then when I grow up to this age, 43, I'll make the time travel deal. It causes this time loop. There's so many different things interesting about the time loop, because whatever happens, it branches off. I mean, even in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, it talks about the multiverse of madness. So when you mess with time travel, you start a brand new timeline, which can be catastrophic. So no telling what is really going on with these time travel stories. Alternative timelines is another thing. So the franchise introduces the idea of alternate timelines where changes in the past create branching realities, just like I just mentioned. This can lead to confusion about which events are part of the original timeline and which are part of altered timelines. The third part, I kind of talked on this, aging Terminators. So in Terminator 2, Judgment Day, the T-800 explains that it has human tissue covering the endoskeleton. So it allows it to age like a human, but in later films, Terminators are shown to remain unchanged despite the passage of time, creating inconsistencies on how Terminators age. You would think that when they do this, they would iron all these things out to begin with, instead of waiting until people, nerds like me, watch the films and then start talking about, this is so stupid, they should have done this or whatever. The memory retention. So in some films, characters retain memories from alternate timelines, while in others they don't. And this inconsistency, it really makes it unclear how time travel affects characters' memories and experiences. I don't care what anybody says. I think Back to the Future is probably the best time travel story. It don't go too deep into it and, talk about all these different branching storylines, but it gives you enough that it makes sense to where you understand what's going on. Then there's, the creation of Skynet. The franchise never fully explains how Skynet was created in the original timeline. It's implied that it was created by humans, Miles Dyson, I think his name was. But the exact circumstances of its creation are never addressed. And then the Resistance knowing about the Terminators. So in Terminator Salvation, John Connor and the Resistance seem familiar with the Terminators, despite Kyle Reese being the first person to encounter one in the original storyline. This inconsistency raises questions about how much knowledge of the future events the Resistance has. But these are just a few examples, and I mean, they might be seen as plot holes, and some fans argue that they actually add to the complexity and mystery of the franchise's time travel narrative. But ultimately, the Terminator series prioritizes action and storytelling over the strict adherence to the rules of time travel, which can lead to inconsistencies in the plot. I mean, I guess when you're dealing with time travel, there's so many unknowns anyway, and that may be part of the story, is that they're just trying to survive and they don't know what's going to happen with the time travel. They're just trying to survive the best way they know how. So that's some pretty interesting things about the Terminator. It's a great movie. Usually the first movie is the best. Terminator 2 was just icing on the cake, and if they had ended it there, you would have had two great movies that you could sit down and watch and really enjoy. Sometimes, however, the more you put out, the more problems you have, and the more people get bored with. Some movies are not like that. There's usually some kind of problem though when you just start kicking out movie after movie after movie. I mean, look at Home Alone. The first two were great. 3 was okay, but then after that, everything was direct to DVD. You never saw them in movies anymore. So, I mean, I really enjoyed Terminator. I thought it was cool. I really wanted to get interested in guns after seeing that movie when the part where he goes into the gun store and he starts just naming off the different guns and by name. I just thought that was cool. Even got a gun magazine one time and, looked through it, wanted to buy one, but guns just aren't my thing though. But, I mean, you know what? Every to each his own. And if you've seen the Terminator and you enjoy the Terminator, great. If you haven't, I hope I didn't spoil too much for you. Go watch it. I think you'll like it. So let's talk about, this is another interesting topic. So there's a lot of memorable moments in the movies. So let's talk about this one. So Arnold's line in the first film of the Terminator has become one of the most famous quotes in movie history. It's the chilling promise of the Terminator's return, delivered with Schwarzenegger's trademark intensity. I think it was supposed to be a little longer, but he ended up just saying, "I'll be back." And that was, man, that's the number one line probably that most people want to hear. I even saw a small clip one day of Arnold saying that he always got asked to say that line. It's pretty interesting. There was even a joke. I don't remember who made the joke. A comedian, I think. He said, "Oh no, I know what it was. It was on Whose Line Is It Anyway?" And it was scenes from a hat, and they pulled out the deal, and it said movie quotes that were originally longer. And one of the guys said, "I'll be back in just a few minutes. I'm going to go make me a sandwich," or something like that. It's pretty funny. The T-1000's liquid metal transformation. Now, this was a showcased his shape-shifting abilities for the first time, played by Robert Patrick, like I said. And it's the scene where it morphs from a puddle of liquid metal into the cop. And it's just a stunning display of special effects, and it actually remains one of the most memorable moments in the franchise. The thumbs up from the Terminator, which was in Terminator 2, another spoiler alert in Judgment Day. He decides to sacrifice himself, which this is another thing that doesn't make sense. But he decides to sacrifice himself to destroy the chip and the arm that could lead to the creation of Skynet. So he has to throw the arm that they found into the vat of molten, not lava, but molten metal. They threw the chip into the molten metal, and then there was also the one in his neural net, cerebral cortex, whatever you call it, in his endoskeleton. It had to be destroyed as well. So he lowered himself into the molten steel, and as he's going under and melting into nothingness, it gives a thumbs up to John Connor, which leaves a lasting image of sacrifice and redemption. Pretty sad when you think about it, but it was a good moment. The highway chase in Terminator 2, which is the scene where on a Los Angeles freeway, the T-1000 is pursuing John Connor and the T-800 on a motorcycle, and he's in a big rig similar to Optimus Prime. I don't know the type of 18-wheeler that is, but it's the square box. Looks just like the Optimus Prime. The sequence is filled with high-speed action, a lot of groundbreaking special effects, and it made it one of the most memorable action scenes in cinematic history. Sarah Connor's transformation. So Linda Hamilton portrayed Sarah Connor as undergoing this dramatic transformation through the franchise from a vulnerable waitress in the first film to a hardened warrior in Terminator 2. It looks like she went off to be in the army or something and come back and she's ready to fight. That was interesting. In Terminator 2, there's another line that was pretty iconic, which was "Hasta la vista, baby," which is another memorable line, as I said. And this is just before he shoots the T-1000 with the grenade launcher. The combination of humor and action in this moment has made it a fan favorite. And then, of course, the Terminator's arrival. The first appearance of the Terminator in the original film is a chilling moment as it emerges from a ball of lightning and begins its relentless pursuit of Sarah Connor. The scene even sets a tone for the rest of the movie, and it establishes the Terminator as the formidable and unstoppable force. Another thing that I thought was interesting was in Terminator 2, there's a scene where Sarah Connor is, I think she's sewing up, or maybe she's going into the Terminator's brain to turn off like a tracking mechanism or something. I don't remember what happens in that. She's doing something to it under his skull. And so it looks like the Terminator is looking into a mirror while she's working on his head, and his head's like exposed or something. But what that actually was a body double for Arnold, and then he's sitting on the opposite side of the wall, which looks like a mirror. And unbeknownst to anybody at the time, Linda Hamilton actually has a twin sister. So both of them were in the scene playing the same part. One was the reflection, the other was Sarah Connor. So that was pretty interesting as well. And I never knew that until I found this guy on YouTube named, what's his name? Minty, Minty, and he talks about, similar to what I do, he talks about all these different movies and things you didn't know about certain movies. Pretty interesting guy, actually. Go check him out. And it's one that you're definitely going to want to see over and over again. Well, hey guys, thank you so much for listening. This is another episode of Spontaneous Remarks. Thank you so much. Until next time, guys, we'll catch you on the flip-flop. And watch out for that AI, because it may just come to get you. Woo!